Footy finals are over. The winter codes are done and dusted. Queensland reigns supreme as God intended.
Big Bash hasn't confirmed that yet, Clancy. We'll just wait to see how the Brisbane Heat go if they can do it. But, the Sydney Sixers might redeem it for New South Wales.
Yeah, perhaps.
A tough year for the southern state. But, the footy's done for a while. Now we're back to talking about real things. Things that matter.
Nature.
Nature today is something we're going to be talking about.
We actually have an environmentalist in here.
Mm-hmm. An author. A businesswoman as well. Yeah.
Yep. Potential aspiring teal candidate.
Yep. Anything else we've missed, Nat Kyriacou?
No, I think you've covered it well. Thank you.
Natalie Kyriacou, our first official environmentalist. We did have Ken Henry in here, more of an economist who with an environmentalist bent.
Yep.
But nowadays it kind of feels like economists and environmentalists having to work together because it's looking like our environment could become very costly.
I was going to say, I love Ken Henry.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, what's bad for the environment is bad for the economy.
Yeah.
And it's a funny case that I have to make is that I'm sort of fighting to make the case that it's really important that we maintain the conditions necessary for our own survival, and that is the environment. It is obviously central to business. It's a thing that allows us to breathe, to eat, to run our businesses off. And so I think it's reasonably worthwhile to protect that thing that, healthy soil means food.
Yep.
Forests mean clean air. So I would say, there's very strong links with the environment and the economy.
Now, you're obviously up against it as an environmentalist in this country, in this media landscape, I should say. Do you ever sit there, Natalie, as someone who's written a book about nature and our need to protect nature, and you look at your kind of the adversarial voices that you're up against, do you ever think maybe these old codgers are right and maybe this climate change thing is a bit of a beat up?
I mean, no, I haven't gotten to that point. I mean, I think we've gotten to the point where even environmentalists are getting sick of the environment because we're just having the same arguments for decades. But the science continues to evolve, so I just follow the science and try to listen to fact and reason, but also just of the most basic premise that surely this is our joy for everybody, no matter what side of the political spectrum you sit on. We are so lucky to be in Australia, and we have forests and people can surf and they can grow food on their farms. Those things are important, I think, to all Australians.
Yeah, if you like hunting, if you like taking your Forby to a campsite, and camping.
Yeah, if you like breathing,
breathing air.
If you like drinking Great Northern in a national park.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's one thing I find interesting, the politicisation of nature and the environment, and I'd love to know where you think it kind of started and why it started. Because as you mentioned, some environmentalists love hunting. Teddy Roosevelt, I think he brought in national parks in America because he wanted to ensure there were animals to hunt.
Back in the day, conservative kind of meant conservation.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Reagan and Thatcher teamed up for...
they teamed up and saved the world at that time. Yeah,
which I don't think a lot of people would think about it kind of in the modern landscape in terms of conservative right-wing politicians.
Yeah.
Where do you think it started in terms of kind of politicising it and turning it into a culture wars issue?
I mean, I think lobby groups played a really big role, but it is. The environment was a conservative agenda, a progressive agenda too, but that story of Ronald Reagan and Margaret Thatcher, they teamed up to put a stop to the hole in the ozone layer. It was monumental, and it was simply because Margaret Thatcher was a scientist by trade, and so she understood the science and she acted. Ronald Reagan was an ally of hers. He had skin cancer, so he understood what a hole in the ozone layer could do to his populations, and so they acted. And it is the most enduring and effective environmental agreement that the world has ever seen, run by two leaders of the conservative world. I don't quite know exactly where we went wrong, but there has been a large-scale propaganda machine at work, and it has been largely by certain industries that have benefited from environmental destruction, and they started to create this narrative that environmentalism was bad for the economy, that it was harming your children. There was a bunch of lobby groups that formed these sort of pseudo think tanks that would say things like, think of what the tree huggers are doing to the environment, and think of what tree huggers are doing to the economy. And so you see it in language today that where people sort of assume that environmentalism is counter to the economy. And that's not based in any reality. This is just propaganda that has it's just a vibe. It is just a vibe. And do you think, well, actually our entire economy is entirely dependent on nature. So actually nature isn't bad for the economy. We need it for the economy to exist.
Particularly now where like we don't really make things anymore. Our tertiary education system is going down the gurgler because we are basically propping it up by making sure we have heaps of international students paying triple the amount of local students, and the standard of education is dropping. Science, we're not really on that, are we, Clancy? We're running out of things to dig out of the ground. We don't have a lot left other than our environment and the nature here. Why isn't more being done to kind of cash in on that from a commercial perspective in terms of whether it's tourism, green energy, all that sort of stuff? Or is it starting to happen and we're just not really hearing about it?
I mean, it's mixed. It is. I think there is momentum from private sector. Government is lagging, and I think the government is sending a lot of mixed signals. It's saying, we want to commit to the environment. We want to do all these things for the environment. They're pushing businesses to do things for the environment, but the government haven't. They're still subsidising activities that cause mass harm to nature. So that's sending mixed signals to investors. They don't have effective nature or environmental laws. So that's confusing everybody. And they are oftentimes prioritising the voices of certain industry groups over communities and over the environment and over citizens and over young people. And so I think it is a real short-term thinking where, they're worried about the next election cycle or whether they can retain their seat, whereas the rest of Australia is thinking, okay, what about my future?
Do you find much love from agricultural primary producers? Because they've all got a bit of hippie in them. They probably love to pretend. They vote for the Nationals. They love their trucks, and they obviously in some industries love using pesticide as much as they can. But part of them realises that you need the environment. Yeah,
of course. I mean, nobody understands the land better than farmers and Indigenous peoples. These farmers are they are doing us a great service. They are the people that tend to the soil and provide our food for us. And I think they understand that, and they are faced with so many pressures, and a lot of them are likely due to inadequate environmental regulations coming from government, but they understand that if they aren't able to effectively do their job and effectively tend to their land and have a healthy environment, then that means that food prices are going to rise, that our coffee prices are going to increase, or that our wine is in jeopardy. Yes, I see farmers as allies. I don't know if they see me as one, but I hope they do.
What is happening with it? There's a piece of legislation that's apparently going to be rushed through the EPBC Act, which federal legislation, which basically governs the Environmental Protection Agency. Yeah. And the changes are apparently being rushed through after what was discussed at the productivity roundtable, which automatically makes me a little bit suspicious because I don't know where productivity comes into environmental protection. What is happening at a federal level at the moment?
So we have this federal environmental law, the EPBC Act, Environment Protection and Biodiversity Conservation Act. And in 2022, the government released this report, and it was an independent review of our environmental laws. And the review basically said, not only do these environmental laws not work, but they actively harm nature. And so right now our federal environmental law in Australia does two things. It pisses businesses off and it harms nature. And that's not good enough. And so environmental groups have been lobbying for years to try to get the government to reform this law. And they want a couple of things. They want to close deforestation loopholes that make it really easy for mass deforestation to occur. So, for example, under these laws, since 1999, we have cleared native bushland the size of Tasmania. That's a football field, every day. It's a football field every 2 minutes, not every day, that we're clearing. Yeah. We also want to see consistent rules. We need rules so that rules act like a compass. So if you have environmental rules, everyone knows the direction that we're going in. We want an independent environmental regulator, and we also want to have climate harm considered when making decisions. So what the government has agreed to is to set up this independent environmental regulator called the Environment Protection Agency. But it's a funny thing because I think they're just going to do that. And what that means is that you have somebody that enforces the rules, but the rules are ineffective. So now we're going to have this enforcer enforcing completely useless rules. And so what organisations like Australian Conservation Foundation are arguing is that we actually need to reform the rules. Otherwise, you've just got an agency that is enforcing stupid laws.
Yeah.
Stupid rules.
Is there much luck with changing the rules and getting the rules updated for this legislation?
I mean, I think they know what they have to do. They've had ample recommendations. I think there is one of the problems is that there is this narrative that it's bad for business, and it isn't. It's actually good for business. It's good for communities. So if you think about a restaurant owner would know that it is bad for their business if they accidentally poison their customers. Yeah. And so there might be a regulation that says you need to keep your prawns fresh. And so it's sort of like arguing that, no, it's really annoying to have a health regulation that tells us to keep our prawns fresh. Well, no, actually that's really good for your business because it's a good thing when you keep your customers alive. It's really good for your business long term. And it's the same with the environment. You need a set of rules so that businesses know what the right thing to do is, and they just have really clear guardrails. But also it ensures that we're protecting these places that we should be proud of as Australians. The Great Barrier Reef, it's too easy to pollute and destroy the Great Barrier Reef. Under our environmental laws, our koalas have become endangered species. That's so embarrassing for us. These are laws at the very least should protect these iconic places that make Australia, Australia.
It's almost like we need to bring back those 1980s resort entrepreneurs like Christopher Skase just to protect this reef because it was such an asset in the 80s.
Yeah.
Bring the Japanese in to go snorkeling, all the beautiful colours. You know what I mean? Why are we treating it like a graveyard effectively?
Yeah. And it's the huge job creator. We're talking like more than 50,000 jobs jobs off the reef. We're talking about $6 billion a year to the economy. And this is all from the Great Barrier Reef. This is an amazing economic boon for Australia, and we're treating it like it's an inconvenience for business. It's not an inconvenience for business. It's an asset for business.
I remember in the 1980s, the Queensland National Party proposed milling the coral into cement. That was an asset.
Yeah, it's not quite what I had in mind.
Now, I want to talk to you as someone who obviously knows every single animal in the whole entire world.
Gosh.
Where's a good example of a country that might surprise you with their environmental laws elsewhere in the world? And I'd also like an example of a country that is not doing the right thing and a country that you don't want to be compared to.
I think when you could actually. It's interesting when you talk to people who have been travelling and they might travel through some countries through Southeast Asia who don't yet have effective regulation, and they can see it on the streets. They come home and they say, it's a real shame. We saw the environment being destroyed, and they'll talk about how it ruined their holiday experience. But the EU has some pretty strong regulation coming through, and that will hit Australian businesses. But there is one. I'm going to go rogue. Can I talk about a vulture?
Yeah.
Okay, so in India, this was in the 90s, the Indian vulture population started declining. There were 50 million vultures, and then over a few years, they went down to just a few vultures, and nobody could figure out what was going on. And vultures are nature's cleanup crew. So they eat the dead. And in doing that, they clean up any sort of disease and decay and all of that sort of thing. And they worked out that vets had been giving this drug to livestock in India, and when vultures were eating the livestock, it was killing them. And so the government quickly acted and they banned this drug from being used. And of course, the vets complied because they didn't want to see vultures die. And that stopped the issue. But vulture populations had plummeted to near zero. And in that time, it had caused absolute devastation.
Critically endangered.
Yeah, critically endangered. And what it did to India was quite profound. So in the loss of vulture populations cost the Indian economy $350 billion, and it killed 500,000 people. And that is because they no longer had their cleanup crew. You had more dead bodies, more rotting carcasses, disease spread, rabies spread, sort of feral animals spread. So I think it just goes to show this crucial role that the environment, that nature plays in our lives. And it does all of these jobs for us that we don't factor into the economy. Yeah. It keeps us alive, but also this is our free, like that was India's free cleanup crew. Yeah. And so I like looking at those sort of examples that show how important this is to have why we need effective environmental laws, but also how it is fundamentally tied, nature is fundamentally tied to the economy.
That's what the shark cull, that's the first argument you could make
against
a shark cull is, well, what do you think maybe the sharks are actually doing something in the ocean?
Yeah.
It's like a moving part that we need to maintain.
Yeah. Ocean health.
The ocean cleanup crew.
Yeah. That was what your book centers around, right? The different kind of things that animals create for humanity and the planet and our environment. How did you go about finding these different instances? Was it a lot of time spent researching? Were you kind of David Attenborough around and popping into different places and getting boots on the ground, or how did it work?
Yeah. So my book's called Nature's Last Dance, Tales of Wonder in an Age of Extinction, but it's quite quirky. So it explores the way that nature and humanity collide, how nature shapes our culture, our society, our politics, our economics. But I tell it through really quirky stories. So the aim is to try to trick people into loving nature through weird stories. So I explain what survival of the fittest is through the Great Emu War. So how Australia lost a war twice to a flightless bird. And I talk about how we can understand leadership through the clitoris of the bonobo, which is a great ape. I talk about, Thatcher and Reagan, but I also talk about these crucial services that nature provides us. Like, why is a drunk moose, moose are getting drunk all over the world, and why they are important to companies like IKEA, or how Mars Incorporated, their entire profits are entirely dependent on one tiny little insect smaller than a pinhead, because that insect is a midge. The midge, the biting, annoying.
Midges.
Yeah. They primary pollinator for cacao. Our chocolate industry is built off the back of them.
Really?
Yeah. So it's I tell stories like that to show just how important it is to all of us, but the quirky ways it's shaped and defined our lives. Everything that we understand even about humanity, our relationship with each other, it's largely based off Charles Darwin. Yeah. And so you think like all of this comes from nature, all of it. And so I wanted to find stories that could appeal to anybody and everybody. So it was sort of like, well, if you don't like the clitoris of the bonobo here, let me give you the Great Emu War, or let me talk to you about how Costa Rica became a country of peace and nature. And so there's lots of, quite quirky stories.
A good little animated series for ABC Kids, perhaps.
Yeah,
apart from the erotic one she just mentioned before.
Yeah, I mean, there's a G-rated version of that, but it's been I have travelled around and spent a lot of time with nature and communities around the world, but also I've been working in this space for a long time, and I love collecting weird and fun stories about nature.
Is it true the mosquito is like the only creature that if it disappeared off the face of the earth, it actually wouldn't affect biodiversity long term? I feel like I've heard that. Like it's one of the.
That sounds like
ones.
A guy on a campsite.
Yeah, it's a real trust me, bro kind of theory. But I feel like that's the one where apparently there'll be a little blip in terms of different diseases and like population numbers, but if they disappear long term, I've heard that it actually wouldn't affect anything too much and life will go on.
I'm not fully confident answering that.
Yeah, fair. Okay.
Let's talk about bees. Where are we at? Where are we at with the bees?
I mean, bees are obviously crucial. They're the world's primary pollinators. Bee populations and insect populations on the whole are in decline, and it's quite scary. And this is why I consider myself like a part-time unpaid position of being an ugly animal activist, because we give a lot of attention to the charismatic megafauna, like the pandas. They're on covers of magazine, things like that. But really important species, like the ugly animals, like vultures and like insects, they play the most crucial role in our society, and roles that we don't even know. Like sometimes we don't even know about them. They prop up our economy. They ensure that we can eat food and have shelter, and they allow forests to thrive. And it's quite scary because we don't know enough about them. We don't know how many of them are disappearing, but we know that it's severe. And I mean, you can look at it. You can think about when you were younger and you got in your parents' car or something and you saw how many bugs were on the windscreen, and you compare it to now, and there is just a lot less. We have less biodiversity in the world. We have less bugs and bees in the world. We have systems in place, political and economic systems that continue to harm nature, and we are seeing it play out in real time, that these declines are putting pressures on our food systems, on our health. And so, it's a real shame. It's not just bees and insects. Sorry, I get so excited about all this stuff, so I just go on tangents. But there's also a flower in Madagascar. It was called the Madagascar periwinkle, and today it's known in the health industry as the cure to childhood cancer, because it was in the 1990s, Hodgkin's lymphoma and leukemia were considered a death sentence for all children. They just didn't survive it. And then the Madagascar periwinkle, this flower that was used by Indigenous communities there, was discovered. Extracts were pulled from it, and that flower is now the backbone for the chemotherapy treatments for Hodgkin's lymphoma and leukemia. And now the cure rate for those childhood cancers sits at above 90% in developed countries for children. And that is thanks to a tiny little flower in the red soils of Madagascar. And so I just think that we need to be doing much more to protect ugly animals, ugly insects, and flowers that we've never heard of, because they're our healthcare system.
Pretty privilege is a thing in the nature world. Like no midges, no chocolate. I never would have.
No.
Never would have thought of that.
Yeah.
No.
What about the ones in Australia? Are there any like ones in Australia that are quite crucial that we kind of dismiss? Like the ibis have some role in regulating.
Yes. Oh my God, I love the bin chicken.
Yeah.
Okay, so the bin chicken is amazing, and they actually, the reason they've headed into urban environments and wreaked havoc upon children and children's playgrounds and made the news for being annoying is we have destroyed their native habitat, and they're quite remarkable because they have adapted, and we should be very proud of them for that, for their adaptation skills. But they've also they have adapted or evolved to eat cane toads. So they can help us address invasive species. So they have adapted to be able to manage the poison. They don't die from eating the poison.
They flip them over as well. Is that something to do with it?
It's incredible. So the ibis. It's really interesting because we had remember there was the National Glare at Ibises Day that was established through someone's Facebook, and then everyone went to their park to glare at ibises.
Yes.
But then they also get like runner-up and bird of the year. So we sort of love them and hate them, but they are a really remarkable species that
they're meant to be
adaptation.
living in the Western Plains. They weren't ever meant to be in the city.
No, they're not meant to be rummaging through bins. They've just evolved to do that quite well.
Does Australia have the Bird of the Year poll? I know that always gets a bit of traction on The Guardian, I think it is. Do we have like a big bird watching community here in Australia?
Yeah.
What are they called? Twitchers?
Birders, twitchers. Yeah. Bird watchers are among us.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, they're everywhere. And you like, even I remember I was speaking at an event recently, and I said, who's a bird watcher here? And it was half the people put up their hand. Yeah. It's huge. And they're also a boon to economies too. They drive millions into economies all around the world because they go over there, they buy all their gear, and they're traveling to new destinations to find the right bird. I have a whole chapter on bird watchers in my book, and it was my favorite chapter to write because there's like all of this drama and intrigue in the bird watching community. But it's this really beautiful thing. It's people that are going outside, putting away their phone and just looking up and just watching the world.
Modern day mindfulness. Where are the best, I'm curious, the best bird watching spots in Australia?
It's got to be Blue Mountains, right?
Yeah, I
Or
figure
Daintree.
like Daintree, even around like the border ranges there,
Yeah.
around the Queensland border would be pretty good, I reckon.
Yeah. Also, I mean, I probably shouldn't the competitiveness here, but New Zealand for
Yeah.
bird watching
Yeah.
is
Well, the Kiwi.
yeah,
Yeah, there you go. Look, Kakadu, Daintree, Lord Howe,
yeah.
Bruny Island. Oh yeah, because they've got a few rare species on Bruny Island, don't they?
My dream is to go. You know the kakapo.
Oh yeah, the Kiwi bird. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the world's heaviest parrot in New Zealand. And it's the one that became famous for humping heads.
All right.
And so they have these reproductive challenges, and basically the kakapoos, they sort of, the male kakapoos waddle up a hill together, and then they dig a hole and start bellowing into it, hoping to attract the ladies. But like the ladies aren't really into that particular brand of male romance, so they don't show up. So now the male kakapoos have started trying to mate with other things. And so then they started mating with human heads. And so there was this YouTube clip that went viral because a BBC cameraman was getting his head humped by the world's heaviest parrot with a kakapo. But then this amazing scientist named Kate McGuinness, she decided, like, okay, well, if the kakapo wants a human head, I'm going to give it a human head and we can help them reproduce because they were critically endangered. And so she got a rugby helmet, turned it into a helmet of condoms, which she called an ejaculation helmet. She ventured out into the forest with this helmet on her head and she just waited. And then the male kakapo came and started humping her head, and she was trying to catch the term.
Harvesting.
She was harvesting, and she said what she didn't factor in was that it is the world's heaviest parrot, and they also they mate for a really long time, so they go for an hour. So she said 3 nights in a row she was sitting in the forest with an ejaculation helmet, getting her head humped by the world's heaviest parrot, and it didn't work.
She needed a neck brace.
Yeah, that's the next iteration is the neck brace. But bird watching,
Yes.
The bird watchers. I feel like there's scandals in the bird watching community as well.
I was
Like
going to
people-
say anything, and you would know this very well, Nelly, the kind of eccentricities that come with these kind of communities. I think your next book could be a true crime on the Brisbane Cat Society murders. Yeah. Where they all got so jealous about the different roles and who was the leader, and they all ended up knocking each other off just over cats.
Yeah, I mean, that doesn't surprise me at all. It's a really, I mean, I don't know if you've ever spent any time on birding forums, but they are the most amazing places in the entire world because it is just pure passion, but also like there was
slander as well, I imagine.
Yeah. There is an etiquette to bird watching, and there is a community, and there are certain rules that you follow, and there are people, there are icons of the bird watching community. There is one of the most famous bird watchers is named Peter Kessner, and there was a time he's considered a big lister, like his list is really big, and that means he's got a lot of birds that he's ticked. But then he got into this sort of competition with a guy, this dark horse in the birding community who claimed to see 10,000 birds before Kessner, and it was this whole big frenzy in the bird watching community, and the birding forums blew up about who really saw 10,000 birds first, and
because it was like they announced it the same week or month or something, right?
Right as Peter Kessner had just clicked the shutter on his camera and caught his 10,000th bird, and then Jason Mann, this other guy, had self-published an article claiming that he'd also reached 10,000 birds, and the birding community went crazy. They were like, this Jason Mann has no evidence that he's,
stolen valor.
Yes, exactly. But it was righted. It was righted in the end.
Do you need to photograph it to officially tick it off, or no? That's the problem here.
It's a bit of golf rules. Right?
Yeah, I mean, there's con artists all through the bird watching community, I think.
Yeah, I mean, there's a little bit of, it's a bit self-reporting, but when it came down to it, people had been, Peter Kessner is widely respected as a birder because he has meticulously tracked and photographed everything that he's seen, and he's done it on, the proper forums.
Yeah, right. So it sounds like you're well and truly Team Kessner.
I am Team Kessner,
Okay. How do you spell Kessner? Peter?
Yeah, I'm going to be going down a deep rabbit hole on this.
Oh, it's in you got to read it in my book.
Okay.
I've got a copy for you.
You've documented
I've documented this.
The Kessner man.
It was my favourite chapter. I went deep into birding forums.
Okie doke.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Please.
Nature's Last Dance, Natalie Kyriacou. Did I say that right?
No, right enough.
Instead of 3 different ways to interview.
I liked all of them.
Peter Kestner looks like you think Peter Kestner would look.
Peter Kestner looks like he's done 10,000 birds.
That's a guy who's seen 10,000 birds, I reckon. I
Yeah.
wanted to ask Natalie, where did the love for environmentalism and animals come from? Were you a kid who knew like every name of the dinosaurs before you were 4, or like you were completely across every animal name in a certain country, or is it something that came on later in life?
No, it was early, and I don't know if I would know all of the names. I mean, I wasn't like a particularly brilliant child. I just, I wasn't a brilliant child. I was a very average child. I just loved nature. I loved being like, I loved frogs. I loved insects. I loved being outdoors. My parents used to take us camping every second weekend. And then on the weekends we didn't go camping. Dad would set up a tent in our backyard and we'd camp out there and pretend we were in a forest.
That's nice.
But he later told us that he only did that to give Mum a break from us. And then I over the years, I spent time living in the Bornean jungle with orangutans. I worked in Sri Lanka, and I just loved being outdoors. I think most kids did, right? We used to being outdoors. It's a great thing, and I just never lost that curiosity or appreciation for nature. It's something we're so lucky to have it. We're so lucky to be able to go outside and see, especially in Sydney, to see the ocean or see the forest. I don't want us to lose that. Now I have.
Even with all the animals you've seen, you're still one of those people when walking Bondi to Bronte, you're one of those people when the whales broach, you go, oh.
Oh, yeah. I flip out. Yeah. I never, it's the same as being in a dog park. Like you never lose that excitement, and I never want to lose that excitement. It's
Tell us about the humpback whales. Apparently that's a success story.
It's a huge success story. We had an international ban on whaling, and this was largely led by grassroots organisations like Sea Shepherd and Greenpeace that stopped the hunting of humpbacks, but they were facing extinction, and now they're back.
It's a very funny story, and it's a great case study, really, because when they banned whaling, commercial whaling, and non-commercial whaling, of course, you can't be an amateur out there killing whales either. When they did that, you know what everyone was saying? Well, what the hell's Byron Bay going to do?
Yeah.
Their economy was ruined.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of people forget that, don't they? Like that was a whaling port. That's
Byron Bay
Byron
Bay is going to be a ghetto.
Yeah.
Now that we can't
It's doing all right.
drag whale carcasses in here, and
they found a way to transition.
They really transitioned, didn't they?
All the billionaires are there now.
Yeah. Full circle. Favorite ugly animal to finish up, Natalie?
Vulture.
Vulture, yeah. That's fascinating. I had no idea about that with the vultures. That
They're
is
incredible.
The Indian vulture.
Yeah, they're pretty incredible. But I mean, give me any ugly animal. It doesn't matter. If it's got a hideous face, I'll love it.
What's that? Cassowary.
Oh, yeah.
They're pretty ugly.
They are ugly. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they're unconventionally beautiful.
Yeah, and the blobfish, like they had ugly animal competitions, and the blobfish won. I think it was up against pubic lice as a species, and it came out first. So that was
pubic lice underneath a microscope are pretty ugly.
Yeah. So I haven't been a big advocate for that.
Well, they lost to the blobfish.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us, Natalie. It's been a very interesting yarn, and it is worth tapping into these conversations, because we know it doesn't matter how euphoric you found that double premiership in Brisbane over the last fortnight. We know that people are as fascinated in the things you've spoken about as they are in sport and tabloids and dating shows. Please get out and get it. Natalie, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, and I hope everyone can also get out and support Australian Conservation Foundation, who have been doing amazing work to drive better environmental laws in Australia.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.